Another big story, the coronavirus in Maryland. In the last day, the state added more than 1,000 new cases for the fifth straight day. Positivity rate and deaths also rose, and the number of Marylanders in the hospital now slowly approaching 1,000. The rising numbers come as more Marylanders continue to get vaccinated. Right now, more than 2.5 million vaccine doses have been administered across the state. Nearly 900,000 Marylanders are now fully vaccinated. Nationally, about 143 million COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered. That's what the CDC says. That's about 3.3 million increase in doses given since yesterday. With the increase, the 7-day rollout average is around 2.7 million shots in arms given every day. The data also shows 52 million Americans are now fully vaccinated.
The Biden administration is working on a system for people to prove they've gotten their COVID vaccine. The so-called VaxPass or vaccine passport would be used for people in the workplace, at schools, or for those traveling internationally. Senior White House officials say multiple agencies are involved in the planning. The demand for the pass is expected to be high as more Americans get vaccinated every day. As more people get vaccinated, travel sites like Airbnb and VRBO are reporting a boom in online reservations. VRBO says a company is having its best start to the year in a quarter century, and Airbnb says its hosts have earned a combined $1 billion in the last year. Analysts believe this is because consumers are ready to travel and vacation again with the end of the pandemic in sight. As students start to return to the classroom, the effects the past year has had on their learning could be felt for years to come. Sean Stryker has more on pandemic learning loss and what one expert recommends to help correct the situation.
More than a year into the pandemic, and the negative effect remote learning has had on students is becoming clear. Studies show in grades 1 through 4, 10% fewer students are at their grade level in reading than there would have been without the pandemic. In math, that number jumps to 16%.
And that's really an enormous decrease of proficiency.
And in the Black and Hispanic communities, David Steiner, the director of the Johns Hopkins Institute for Education Policy, says this pandemic is making a bad situation even worse.
We've started the COVID situation with major achievement gaps between different groups of our students, with African American and Hispanic students achieving at tragically lower levels than their white and Asian peers. What's happened is that the COVID situation has made that worse.
While a traditional response would be to remediate or hold a student back, Steiner says that may not be the best option.
First of all, psychologically, you're saying to a student, we're going to treat you as a child who is behind, who is identified in a sub-performing group. And as we remediate you, you know perfectly well that your on-grade peers, your on-grade level peers, are moving still further ahead. So it's like a receding horizon, right? You never catch up.
Instead, he recommends what he calls acceleration.
It's not a question of trying to recover all that's lost. It's a question of saying, in order to access next week's lesson, right, on whatever it is, the bluest eye in your ELA course, or whole number functions in mathematics, we know you absolutely need to master this piece of knowledge, these skills. That's all we're going to teach you.
Steiner recommends implementing this acceleration technique sooner rather than later to prevent students from falling further behind. In Baltimore, Sean Stryker for WJZ.
Well, the pandemic has made it hard to enjoy some public spaces, but the Baltimore museum lovers, we have some great news for you.
The Baltimore Museum of Art officially reopened to the public. It opened today with 3 new exhibits and, of course, safety precautions in place. Only ticketed guests can enter, and there's a timed entry procedure. Guests must also answer pre-screening questions and wear masks at all times.
Here you go. Here's the details. The museum will be open Wednesdays through Sundays, 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Give you something to do. That's right.